Welcome to the Furlo Capital Real Estate Podcast, where we dive into the intricacies of passive real estate investing. And our mission is to equip people to invest wisely in both properties and people so that together we can build our wealth and improve housing. I'm James, and this is my wife, Jessie.
Hi, I'm here and having a good hair day.
All right. Sweet. We'll take advantage of that.
Got lots of compliments today.
Yeah?
I blow dried. It's a thing.
That's a thing.
It takes like 40 minutes though. I'm just like, oh my
that's a
word.
significant
I'd rather
investment of time.
sleep for the extra 40 minutes and just air dry my hair.
So what precipitated the blow dry decision?
I don't know. I was up earlier this morning for some reason. I was like, oh, I have a few extra minutes.
You got the
Might
time.
as well blow dry.
Let's do it.
And I was waiting for you to bring the van back home so I could take some chairs back to the office.
That's true.
And so I was like, oh, all right.
So I get credit on both ends. I woke you up early.
There you go.
And I took my time to get home.
Exactly.
So that you had...
You're the reason I had a good hair day.
You're welcome. I'll take credit for it. I was listening to a Cal Newport podcast today, and he was talking about how there are artists who are ditching social media, and part of the reason is because they found that they were just chasing the likes. They were chasing the compliments, right? So you're getting that in real life.
Wow.
And so they find...
So like the motivation for creating their art was to get the likes.
Right, which is different than how it initially started out.
Sure.
Right? And so so I'd be curious to see if
strange.
you're like, ooh, I liked all the compliments, so I'm going to wake up early.
Well, this isn't the first
get-
time I've blow dried my hair, but I have been blow drying it more often because I do get compliments. I had a whole
It's a
conversation
thing.
with a lady today who was like, wow, your hair is great. Like, it really looks nice. She's like, what have you been doing? And I was like, oh, great. I blow dried, and I knew.
Yeah.
That's what I did different.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'm trying to think of a really smooth transition because I did something today that was not fun at all, and it's just
not a good hair
hard.
day.
Not a good hair day.
I mean, your hair does look good.
It's not a
clearly
good day.
nice, but
I'm letting
just
mine
not
go.
a good day.
I'm letting my hair go. We'll see how long that lasts.
I know. I'm surprised.
Usually what happens is something, quote, important, or that I decide is
Yeah.
important, comes up, and I'm like, all right, time to trim it up. And
I like it
I don't have
curly.
anything on the horizon, so we're going to let it roll for a while.
Anyways, we're not talking about hairs.
No, we're not talking about hairs.
We're talking about
in some ways, we're not
your
even talking about
bad
splitting
day.
hairs. We're talking about something really big. So today, I had to go to the courthouse. That's part of being a landlord. You know, sometimes you get tenants who don't pay their rent, and like your only choice is to remove them forcibly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. In the, what are we up to, 16 years now that we've been doing this? This is only my second time that I've had to evict somebody.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do the math in there. I mean, if we include like storage people, I've had hundreds of tenants, but I don't think that counts. In terms of residents, I was like, I think we've had like 50.
Yeah.
in the-
Which is legitimately different. Like,
Yeah.
kicking
Oh,
a
totally.
person out of the place where they're staying is different than saying,
Well, you
hey,
don't even
your
evict
stuff.
a storage person.
Right.
You lock them out, and there's an
yeah.
auction process. It's a thing.
Sure.
But yeah, so it's hard. And honestly, like that ratio is not too bad if you think about
Right.
how many rentals we've had and how many people have gone through. And it's not like everyone's been super easy to work with.
Yeah.
Like usually it's when someone gets behind, we start talking and we start coming up with plans. And usually what will happen is they will pull some sort of strings and figure out how to catch up.
Right.
And then they get behind again. And it's typically around that second or maybe even third time where they just go, okay, writing's on the wall, like time for me to find somewhere that I can actually afford.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is it probably has not happened as frequently because you do have a process. We have a process that we kind of came up with that you talk with people, you have open conversation, and this is not the initial response to an issue that they're having.
I have
the
overwhelmingly will have situations where people are effectively being kicked out, like, removing them. But we've come to an agreement. Here's how this will work. And they thank me for being super patient with them and working with them and effectively not evicting them. And so this was just hard. And it's one where when I was screening him, it wasn't a straightforward like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like he had a job and he barely qualified on the income side of things. There were a couple other minor red flags, but he had, there's an organization in a local organization, and he had a voucher is not the right word, but like he had
some
a thing where some assistance, thank you, where they paid, I can't remember, it was like his deposit and the first rent or month or two worth of rent.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Happening for particular
I also remember, this is what I don't know, I struggle with. I think we have certain rules, and I broke the rule, and I knew it, and there was a risk there. And part of this is just hard, right? So so my general process, someone applies online, and then we talk on the phone. We set up a time to take a tour, and then if that all looks good, run a background credit check, and then eventually, if that all looks good, we then move into them actually signing the lease agreement. We've got a whole online class thing. It's a whole bunch of stuff, and then they get the keys and they move in. That's very high level, very quick how it goes. And I'm trying to remember exactly when this was, but he filled out somewhere that he didn't smoke. And I think when I was going to give the original tour for the place, so he applied, we talked on the phone, and in the application, it asked about smoking. When we talk on the phone, I asked about smoking. And then when I arrived there, I saw him vaping. Yeah. And I was like, what the heck?
So, okay, wait. I have a clarification. So I remember us having this conversation at one point. It may have been related to this particular screening, different. But it was I think it was related. And you were like, okay, I asked about smoking. I asked about specific about
so when
things,
I get
but
on the
I didn't
phone,
specifically ask about vaping.
No, so when I get on the phone and I talk to them, I say, do you smoke? And that includes cigarettes, marijuana, and vaping.
So you said that to him?
Oh, yeah. I ask everybody that. Because I've had people where I say, do you smoke? And they assume, cigarettes.
Yes.
And because, so the fun story was we were actually the exact same unit, actually. It was this couple, and the husband had a job. She did not. And they, barely qualified, and which is 3 times the rent is our thing. Or they were slightly underneath it, I think is actually what it was. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so close. And so I told them, I was like, well, a couple things. Let's show me your budget. I want to see your budget. How can you make these numbers work until she finds a job? Because I figured once she gets a job, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But they just had to bridge that gap. Didn't want them to fall behind at the time. And then I was like, and I just want to hear about your job prospects. What are you doing to find a job? It was more life coaching, really, or instead of just being a landlord. That's the kind of thing that we'll do, and I'll entertain it.
Yeah.
Well, we, so we're meeting with them. It was 2 things that I thought was funny. Number one, when they handed me their budget, their internet expense was ridiculous. It was $200 a month. And I was like, yeah, that was my reaction. Well, it turns out he likes to do Twitch gaming. And so they need a super fast upload speed, which is apparently really expensive. And I'm like, you are struggling to qualify to live here. And you okay, all right, that's cool. So that was that. And then she handed me her, she goes, here's my resume. And she's like, here's my food handler's license. Here's my liquor handler's license or whatever that is. And then here's my marijuana handler's license. And that was when she handed me that. And that was back when I only asked hey, and that includes do you smoke cigarettes?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, interesting. And this was this is pretty early on. It was before, I think things had just gotten legalized, if I remember correctly.
Interesting.
And which is why she now had a handler's license for this thing. And I was so awkward about it. I was like, so do you partake?
Oh gosh.
And she goes, well, only when I'm stressed out. I was like, oh, okay. Well, fair enough. How often would you say that you're stressed out? She goes, dude, every day, at least. I was like, oh.
Oh my word.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Ultimately didn't rent to them. There were other reasons why not, but I definitely felt like I had dodged a bullet on that one.
Yeah.
So with this guy, we'd gotten far enough. I was giving him a tour. I saw him out there, and I told him straight up, I was like, dude, I don't rent to smokers, period. Yeah. Whether that's vaping, cigarettes, marijuana, nothing. I don't even care if you tell me I'll smoke outside the building. I don't do it. And he was like, well, I don't need to. I can give this up. It's fine. And I was like, okay. So there's already like some question about the income. There was this thing, but I knew that it was like the CSC person was working with him and they were trying to find him a place. And I was like, we'll see how this goes. Hey, buddy. A little dog just came in.
He's going to mess stuff up.
Yep. He's trying to get through
Okay.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh, yep. Okay.
It's all right. He doesn't, for some reason, he doesn't trigger the light. It's smart enough to know he's too short. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, where were we?
Yeah. So he, so it was one of those where I walked into it and I went, okay, there's some risk here. And I even knew, I was like, this probably isn't going to end perfectly well. But I was like, well, give him a shot. Why not? And so, he was fine for a while and then, got behind on his payments. And we started down that process. He went back to CSC. They caught him back up. And I don't have the tail of the tape, but I think that happened a couple of times where he would and he lost his job, which obviously didn't help. And then he was working at like 2 places, like, fast food type stuff. And I don't know. It was just, it was hard. The rent's like $800 a month. It's for a pretty large studio, honestly. And I pay for water and garbage, and then he pays for electricity and gas. But it's not like, it's reasonable. It's what it is. And it's still one of the cheapest places around. I did notice one of the times, like, because I'm around doing stuff, like there was someone else who was going in and out, I guess. And I don't know if like just visiting or living there, I have no idea. So one of the interesting things is when you do file for an eviction, and that's the process, right? You have to give them notice on this piece of paper that says, hey, you got to pay. You have like 10 days to pay your rent, or I'm going to go file with the court. Yeah. So I do that.
And this is after several attempts to call and talk and
figure
things out. So this is not like day one.
Correct.
He's had plenty of chances.
Yep. And I'm super nice. I usually wait until like day 10 before I actually do the 10-day notice. So I'm not like day 6, boom, let's get on it. And so, which, that's a choice that I made to try to give them extra time to talk to them. But I do charge a late fee. So, I'm not like totally nice. And so one of the things they say on the form is it's this person who you rented to. And then there's a little thing at the end that says, and all other occupants. Oh. Because I was talking with the sheriff, because what happens is when I file with the court, it's like, hey, there's a court date. And then the sheriff will post a notice on his door saying, hey, you've been summoned to court. And on there, they'll say, like, you have to say, and all other occupants. Because what will happen, let's say this thing goes all the way down the line. And in this case, he didn't show up to the court hearing. And so I essentially won by default, though there's an interesting nuance there that happened this time that didn't happen 15 years ago. And so they say if it gets to the point where the sheriff gets called to remove him, they go, we will only remove whoever is on that piece of paper. So
interesting.
They were like, if it's his name and there's someone else living there, they will remove him.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so the way you get around that is you say, and all other occupants. It's kind of an et cetera.
Anybody who's in there.
Yeah. So that was kind of which when I first filled it out, I didn't do that.
Right.
And thankfully the sheriff was like, hey, you need to redo this. I was like, oh, okay. So they're on the 3rd floor. I had to run back down to the 1st floor, redo it. It was a thing. It was tough. So interesting thing. The first time, like, again, this was like 15 years ago. It was our very first tenants. We had just moved in. It was another, like, I now that we know more, I would have handled the situation differently. But at the time, like, we just didn't know, like, we were like, please move out. And because it was 2 moms, single moms, one moved out, like, right away after they gave us the 30 days notice. Like, we didn't ask them to leave. The one mom moved out. The other one just stayed. We were like, what the heck?
Yeah. Time to move on.
And got no response from her. Like, I was even doing, like, it was a duplex and we lived on one side. And I'm like, I don't even see her there. That kind of thing. So when I showed up to that one, I was super pumped. I was like, dude, I've never seen inside of a courtroom. This is so exciting. I've seen Law and Order. I'm going to see it. And so I go inside and there's a whole group of people in there. I'm like, dude, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to see so much. We sit down. The judge comes in and we all stand, all rise. We all sit down. The judge calls my case first. and the other tenants didn't show up. This is our very first time, right? And I go, hey, I'm here. He goes, awesome. Is the other person here? I'm like, nope. He goes, okay, you win. Boom. Hits the gavel, fills out a piece of paper, says, take this down to this floor. And I was like, I didn't see anything. I was just like, are you kidding me?
Like, that's it?
Yeah. I didn't even get to there was nothing. It was like, boom, instant win. You're done. I was like, huh.
Like, there's no debating. Okay. There's no presenting of evidence.
Well, and I knew she wasn't there.
Right.
But I was really excited to see other people go through this process.
At least let me go fifth or something.
Yeah, I know. Nothing. I couldn't believe it.
Bummer.
So this time around, I go. It's me and one other a collections agency
Interesting.
Is all this there this time. And their slot's actually 1:30, I'm 1:15, I am it. And it sounded like there was 4 other cases that were supposed to be there. Huh. We are all landlord-tenant issue type of stuff. That's what this courtroom is for.
Okay.
And so now I'm like, well, I'm definitely not going to see anything because I know, which is fine. But they ran through the other ones. They weren't there. But they got to call and ask and, run through the process, which totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I get up, and this time she's like, yeah, come on up. Let's chat. And he's not there. I'm like, huh, that's not an instant win. Interesting. Yeah. And so she said she read all the paperwork and was like, okay, looks like you gave proper notice. Looks like you did this. And she was like, okay, you gave notice on this date. It's now this date. Yep, that's your 10 days. She was checking.
She was double checking everything.
That I went through the process right, which
interesting.
It's cool.
Makes sense, yeah,
she should do it because he's obviously not there to represent himself, and I could say whatever, and and go through that. And then she asked me, she was like, do you know that he's still living there? And I was like, yeah, I do. And she was like, what's your evidence for knowing that? Yeah. And I was like, well, it just so happened that I was there on Friday and I saw him go in and out of the building. So that's how I know. She goes, okay. She wanted to know, which I guess.
What's the motivation for that?
I was trying to figure it out. Maybe I've already got the keys, but I'm just so super upset because maybe he trashed the place. And so I wanted him to have an eviction on his record, even though he did his stuff.
Whatever.
I don't know. So, so I still won. Obviously he wasn't there and I checked all the boxes, so it was fine. But even then it was, okay, now you got to go take this thing. So now the process, so I won that. Now, had he shown up, and it said it very clearly on there, that it's either we go to negotiations, we try to figure out a solution forward, or they set a court date in the future to have the actual hearing. This is the warm-up round. I wasn't, if he had shown up, they weren't going to pick a winner or loser that day.
Interesting.
Yeah, super interesting. So you could you could
be
this
months
if you really wanted to.
Yeah,
it was kind of interesting. So
I wonder if tenants know that. Because it's I don't think they want to move out, but obviously he can't make his payment. So
I don't know. My hope is that he was maybe just at work getting money. I don't know, man. Because this property is it's 3 blocks away from the courthouse. It's harder to get further
if he
away.
was sitting in his apartment, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, I don't know. And I know when I saw him on Friday, he looked pretty casual. I was like, man, I would not be that just relaxed if which by the way, I have a hunch he was walking from somewhere else. I have a hunch he was off vaping somewhere else and was walking back. I don't know that. I didn't see it, but that's just where it just had that, I don't know, had that feeling.
Yeah.
So now what's going to happen is I won, and he now has until the 14th. What's today? Today's the 8th. So he's got 6 days to move out, or he's got through it. 14th is technically a Sunday, so he actually has till the 15th. And then if that doesn't happen, then I go back to the courthouse and I pay the sheriffs to then give him, it's another, it's a 3-day notice type thing. It's a thing. And then on that day,
process.
well, then they'll schedule a time okay, they will then physically remove him, and I got to be there and get the keys and do all that stuff. But
you have to be there when they take him, when they remove him.
Well, otherwise, who's going to secure the unit afterwards?
Oh yeah, I guess.
I was going to do a repair project there this week. I decided not to, just because I was I recently bought a can of pepper spray just because I've read enough stuff going on, and I know I'm a tough guy, but
I'm actually surprised you've never had been in a situation where you've had to use it? Because there's been enough weirdness at like the storage units, and I don't know.
Storage units, perhaps. Yeah.
Not the apartments necessarily.
I usually don't go anywhere at night.
That's true.
I think that makes a difference.
Pretty smart.
But I was definitely like, I found myself saying like, oh, I could just carry this with me and I'll be fine. And then I went, you know what? This is not an emergency fix. I can just wait.
Just wait.
That is actually the safest thing to do.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a bummer day in that regards. You know, like, and I was talking to one of the clerk lady peoples afterwards, and she was like, hey, congratulations. And I was like, well, yeah. I'm like, honestly, this is kind of lame.
Yeah.
She goes, yeah, I get it. But at least you're moving on to the next step now.
That's true.
I was like, yeah, I get that. Because I've always had it in the past where it's like they usually pay, they catch up, which I like. I don't like being out the money.
Yeah.
And then we kind of leave on their terms, right? Yeah. And they have a little bit more control over it, and I like that. And this is just not going to be that. So now the hope is that he moves out in the next week, essentially, and we shall see what happens. But yeah, anyways, that's my story of woe. It's part of being a landlord, you know?
Verify if he did or didn't.
Well, I'll get the keys eventually. Like, that's how I will know.
Well, right. But before you go back to the sheriff to say he didn't move out.
Oh. Huh. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that.
I mean, I suppose if he moves out,
I will probably... So they are going to post... So this is all like, I won today. Yay. They will post notice tomorrow that I won. And so I will probably reach out to him tomorrow afternoon or the next day. Just be like, hey, obviously, you know, now this happened. I'm happy to coordinate a time to get the keys from you. What time works for you? I can be pretty flexible outside of Sunday morning. And so, so that's probably what I'll end up doing.
Do you have to get the keys in person?
I would like to. I would like to. Just to, I mean, yes, we do have a box he could put it in, but I just think it would be, I don't know, I might give him that option. I haven't really thought that far through yet. But yeah, it's just kind of a bummer. But again, that's one of the things about being active, and is what it is. And I don't have to do it that often. Usually we come up with other solutions, but I'm thankful that these are here. And even though we're in a state that is very landlord friendly, it still works. And everything that I went through today seemed very reasonable. At no point was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe they're going to do this and that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I thought it was very fair, the way I was treated at least. But yeah.
There you go.
That's all I got, man.
Bummer day.
Do you want to close this out, since I did like 99% of the talking on this one?
Yeah, you did talk a lot.
I guess that's just me processing my day.
It's all right.
This is cathartic.
I'm here to listen.
Yes, I'm listening. Thank you, Fraser. Oh, we didn't even get to I had this whole thing about how we actually screen. Forget about it.
That'll be a different episode.
We're going to tease that for another episode.
That's right. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I did not practice the ending.
That's okay.
Okay, I can do this.
Yeah, you got this. Here, watch. Go ahead. I'll hold it up so you can pretend like you're being all cool about it.
No, I can do this.
No, you got it? All right, go for it.
All right. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, we would love if you like and share and subscribe and do all of those amazing things. I've changed that because I didn't remember what it was.
It's fine.
But wherever you listen to podcasts, and thanks for listening, and have a better day than James had.
Yes.